if you think that I sound quote unquote more sucky.
More sucky.
It was your term, so yeah.
Okay, well now you're frozen. I have a frozen screen. I can hear
Really?
you. Everything's frozen now. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back
Okay.
in. We're back in
Oh,
business.
good.
We're
All right.
back in
So
business. How do we get me double screen here? I don't understand this.
you don't. Okay, you don't need to be double screen. It's recording double screen right now.
Am I side by side with you?
Yes, we've been through this before.
All right. All right.
It is recorded double screen. You look at yourself in your full glory.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, Alex,
I didn't do it.
love your new place.
Oh,
Is that a picture of your new place?
I thought we agreed we weren't going to talk about it. About my new place.
We talk about everything.
Oh, okay. Keep your pants on, child. Please. I beg. I beg.
So, what have you been up to the last couple of days?
Well, I've been back to writing again.
Good. And you produced another blog.
Oh,
See?
I'm happy you noticed.
Well, I actually made a comment, so
Well, I mean, I did post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those sort of things. I'd be kind of sad if you didn't notice it, FYI. So, what did you think of it? That was my first attempt at satire, so.
Well, why don't you explain first of all for our listeners and our viewers exactly what the blog is? It's your blog, so you explain.
Well, effectively, I noticed that over the course, I can step on a lot of toes because I do believe that if you want to actually accomplish something, you need to take a side in all things. And typically, I've been dealing with philosophical issues. For example, I've dealt a lot in the existence of God, in not relativism, but objective belief in reality, truth, and goodness, and beauty, and things like that. Mm-hmm. But those are mostly philosophical, and to most people, that's just not very sexy.
Yeah, their eyes roll. They roll into the back of their head. They turn
So
south. Yeah.
I figured I would go for something. Yeah, exactly. I figured I would go for something pretty mainstream.
And sexy. And sexy.
And sexy, yes. And that's the debate between communism and capitalism.
Oh, that's very sexy. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, it's the sexiest thing ever.
Right. That's like makeup
it's like
sex.
Vegas.
Like makeup sex, actually.
Yeah, you would know because that's all you've ever known. In any event, I didn't. I also, but at the same time, I really didn't want to do another basic, this is why capitalism is better than socialism because we haven't heard that before.
Yeah, that totally sucks. So what did you do? You did a satire, right?
Well, I decided to prove communism.
So you took the side of the communists. You're going to defend the communists now?
No, I'm going to explain exactly what the commies are ultimately saying. See, this is my biggest problem with communism is that proponents of communism don't know what they're talking about. They don't read Marx. They don't actually look at historical attempts of socialism.
Yeah.
And they don't really see where they failed, how they failed, and why they failed. They don't really.
You think they understand the difference between Marxism and socialism, or communism and socialism? Do they know that?
Maybe they do because there are differences, but if they think that that's the issue, not being able to tell the difference between socialism and communism, you have missed the whole train because both are horrible. Both.
Yes,
are we really going to be debating, the terms and definitions when both ideologies ultimately come from the same source, Marx, and both have led to virtually the same result? Are we really going to pick that as a battleground?
All right. So why don't you take it away and you mansplain for us, okay? Because you're the big mansplainer.
Capital splain.
Take it away.
Freedom splain.
Go ahead.
So, what I effectively did is take all the basic presuppositions and the basic initial beliefs that socialists and communists take for granted. For example, their definition of it's either socialism or communism. I couldn't care less which one is which. They believe that the definition is public access to the means
No,
of production,
no.
or at least the workers' access to the means of production, or
Hmm.
but no matter how you define it, basically it means if you want to get involved in how things are made and you want to get the fruits of how things are made, you should have access to it.
Okay.
Which at first sounds pretty reasonable. You know, if you make something, you should reap the benefits of it.
Hmm.
But this is the thing: is how they get very technical is not the right word, but loosey goosey with when they talk about the means of production and public access to it. I mean, when they say public access, in theory, they're saying everyone and equality. In reality, though,
Well,
in terms of how it was actually practiced in the USSR and China and Cuba, it really meant just the people that were better that or more loyal or smarter than everybody else. So
well,
if it
how can we have access? How can everybody have access to everything? If for instance, if this is my glass and my cocktail, how can you have access to it? How can anybody else have access to my cocktail?
because we live in a communist society, you don't own anything now. See,
Oh, so
that's
there's no such thing as private property.
no such thing as ownership. You cannot own
Ah,
anything. You
so
can nothing you own.
that's the genius of Marx. He destroyed private property,
Yes, we all own everything. We all share. See,
and
that
that appeals to people who don't have a lot of property because now they have all property. They
yeah,
own everything. They own everything.
exactly.
Yeah. They own
Exactly.
Trump Tower. They own the skyscrapers. They own the jet fighters. They own everything. They own
All the
everything.
health care they want, all
Right.
the
Everything
whatever
free.
they
It's all
want.
free. It's free.
Yes, nobody pays. See, that's the big thing is people don't
Nobody pays for
realize
anything.
that,
Yeah.
you know, everything you could possibly want
Mm.
took effort to make.
I'll drink
Everything.
to that. I'll
Yeah.
drink to that.
I mean, yeah, that, I mean, do you know how hard it is to make a glass? I mean, that glass you are holding, it's really hard to not only make it, but also distribute it, to advertise it so you actually know that there's somebody willing to give you a glass for a certain price.
Hmm.
I mean, all the effort, and then the ice that's actually in your cup. You know how
Yep.
hard it is to make the refrigerator that or the freezer that froze that ice, and
Yep.
all this sort of.
And everybody has a right to a refrigerator, right?
Oh, of course, you know.
Yep. And my
But
cocktail. And my cocktail. Yep.
and your cocktail, yes, and you. That's the other thing I get at. That's the other thing
Wait a
I
minute,
get
I
at.
draw the line at, okay.
Well,
Okay.
you see,
I'm a
this
communist.
is
I mean, I'm
something.
a card carrying communist. They can have everything, but they can't have access to me. No, I can't do
Well, you
that.
see, this is part of the satire that I point out in my most recent piece, is that okay, you can't own anything. Well, then we have no right to our bodies.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you
Which
say
is
that,
why the
but
state
the
can tell
very
you.
mentality
Yeah.
is capitalist.
Which is why
That
the
yes,
state
I
can
should
tell you.
have I should have ownership of my. I
Which
should
is
be
why
able
the
to.
state can tell you what you can do with your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see what I mean by this
Like
was a
that
very
little
sexy
creepy crawly
topic.
thing inside of your belly that you call a fetus. We can tell you to kill it because the state commands that you kill your baby.
See, I would have loved to. I could have made it much more saltier and much longer. But you know, people only can read for so long. So
I know.
I think last I checked, it was 945 words, which is shorter than most of my blogs are about 1,000 words, but this was 100,000. So
Yeah.
in any event, that is a point I do make out that I haven't heard many Marxists advocate because it is really brain dead stupid, but it is logical. It's logical. If you don't believe you should own anything. There is
Right.
no such thing as private property, personal property, nothing of that kind. It's all public ownership. Everything is public ownership. What is this imaginary line that you own your body?
Yeah.
Who made that line? Was it God? No, we can't. And I also make the point we can't have God. We can't have any kind of spirituality
No.
because you're gonna just want or have something.
That's an old idea.
Yeah, it's an old idea.
Old idea. We don't need any old
If
ideas.
I, as the Christian, have the hope of heaven or
Mhm.
the love of God in me. Those are things that that guy over there is the atheist doesn't have. He doesn't have God. He doesn't have the hope of heaven. He doesn't have those things. He can't own those things. But I do. There's this hope I own. There's these principles I own. These sort of transcendental, non-material things. See, material things can be regulated, well, in theory, they can be regulated. But even in theory, spiritual things cannot be
You know what?
regulated.
You know what Marx's greatest genius was? It wasn't. It wasn't in. It wasn't in convincing the rest of academia that Marxism was a economic theory. That was good. That was good. I mean, he got away with thinking and convincing people that communism, or Marxism, as he called it, Marxism, actually was a science, an economic science. Now, but the thing that was really genius, I mean, that was genius enough, but he really outdid himself
Mm.
by convincing people that there was a social science of human behavior,
Hmm.
and that given enough data, data, ding, 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 data,
All
ding, ding,
right, all
ding.
right, all right. You don't have
Yeah,
to take it on Broadway yet, but
given enough data, we could predict what Alex Madagian will do in any given circumstance.
right. You are dead on right. There is a prevailing, even for people who aren't even necessarily Marxist, who don't consider themselves Marxist, it is an idea that stems from Marx that if we could have this is not exactly what he said, but in essence, this is what he says now. It's the belief that if we could have this supercomputer that could calculate every possible thing, and
Yeah,
we could somehow pour in every single data point imaginable, it
Google,
it would, yes.
Google,
It's like a super Google. It could
the great
predict
God
everything.
Google, the new
Master of the
God
universe,
Google.
as
Yes.
Breitbart calls it. Master of the universe. And it's a very commonly held belief. I know lots of people who would not call themselves Marxists, but definitely hold on to that idea that everything is predictable. They have no concept of, well, human nature is unpredictable. Life
Yeah,
is unpredictable. There are
yeah,
certain things that operate beyond the bounds that can be
right,
measured.
right. So why don't you compare? What's the difference between Marxism and socialism? I bet a lot of people out there don't know that. What's the difference?
I mean, I think in my personal opinion, I think Marxism is just the broadest term that encompasses basically anything that came after what Marx said. Socialism and communism, they have technical differences, but
Hmm.
are ultimately irrelevant.
Hmm.
Socialism is kind of a nicer word than
Do you know?
communism.
Yeah, do you remember Auguste Comte, Compt? Auguste Comte. He was the one who invented sociology. And do you know what the first iteration of sociology was? He didn't call it sociology. You know what he called it? He called it the physical science of society.
Or did he now? So
Yeah,
like so
yeah,
people act like gravity or something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Like it's biology or it's chemistry or it's physics. Yeah, they were so desperate. They were so desperate to put on the white lab coat of the scientist that they convinced academia to let them in these silly disciplines: anthropology, sociology,
Gender
women's
studies and
studies, feminist studies, gay queer studies, all of these. And in the beginning, they weren't even called social sciences. In 1972, when I was teaching, they were called social studies.
mhm.
You know,
Big
this
difference.
this
But
10 years.
the biggest irony in my opinion is that if you
Yeah,
talk to a real scientist,
yeah.
they usually have more doubt about their own theories
Oh
than
yeah,
the, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
just right now, over I think it please correct me if I'm wrong, over 10,000 PhD holding scientists from around the world said they were skeptical about Darwinian evolution.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
mean, this is
yeah.
something that's
And I was
accepted
talking
as
to Troy.
gospel truth.
I was talking to Troy Warden. Troy Warden did my Freedom Matter show today, and he said he studied at Berkeley, and I asked him about this. I said, well, how does Marxism fare at Berkeley? He said, oh, it's on the decline. I said, what? What? Marxism
Really?
is. He said, yeah. He said in the economics department, nobody is a Marxist anymore. No, no. They're
What?
they're they're Frankfurt School socialists. They're not Marxists. They're Frankfurt School socialists. And the Frankfurt School, which originated in Frankfurt, Germany, of course, right? That's what its name is.
Yeah.
They were the ones who insisted that given enough data, we could control society and make it better. We could engineer things. We could engineer equity. We could engineer equality. We could engineer justice if we just had enough data. That's what makes us scientists.
Oh my goodness. You see, even my own father and brother, who are both engineers, I mean,
They
come to
are,
the
yeah,
point
that's true.
where it's really a matter of how much money you're going to pay me to get how many decibels of 99.99 whatever assurance that this will work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you right now, they will never say 100%
No,
success rate.
no.
You know, you have to get down to what's probably going to work, and that's where social science is most useful. Is what probably is going to happen.
Yeah, well, science is in the business of probability. Now, in organic chemistry, if you talk to a student who's taking organic chem, that's one of the hardest classes you could ever take. There's organic chemistry 1 and 2, and they're both tough, brutally tough. And the reason is because there's so much probability. The probability is so high that it's almost inconceivable that the same experiment will not result in the same predicted outcome. Now you compare that to the climate change bullshit science, crap science, where Leonardo DiCaprio, Al Gore said that the polar ice caps are going to melt and all the polar bears are going to be dead. Well, they're still alive, aren't they? So your predictions don't come true. And so the socialists are embarrassed. They're just embarrassed.
But what's interesting is that it's not as though that, after 100 years of socialist failure, people have run away, but rather, if anything, there's sort of a renaissance in certain urbanized young people's minds.
There is, yeah.
Which, I mean, you could say it was always there, but with the social media movement, it really does feel like it's had new breath and new life.
Yeah.
And sort of the ineducation on just the miserable failures of communism throughout the whole world.
Yeah.
Back to my blog specifically, that's why I wanted to take this new take on it, this new satirical take, because all the people that embrace socialism, in my personal opinion, are just not thinking it through. They are thinking of the ends, they're not thinking of the means, and they're not thinking of their own definitions.
What I really liked about your blog was the fact that in explaining Marxism, you saw how absurd it is. That if you follow the logic of Marxism, you must make absolutely absurd conclusion. Conclusion number one: that we can control human nature, that we can control human nature, and that we can control nature itself.
Yeah, exactly. Through carbon emissions or what.
That
I
was
mean,
the
I didn't
best
even have
part.
I didn't even have the chance to get into that, into those examples.
I know.
Trust me, I could have gone very, very long and
You
I could
left
write
a
a whole
lot on the
book on
cutting
that.
room floor. You left a lot on the cutting room floor, believe me.
Right, I did. But I'm content with what I had, because if I made just one person think, and by looking over my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, I'm happy that I did.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone to, by the way, please include a link to it in the Facebook posting and also the Twitter post. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I strongly encourage anyone, send this off to your commie friends, and I did
and your
myself.
Socialist friends, because they're
yes.
cousins. They're
They're
cousins.
apparently different, yes, and your Marxist friends.
Cousins.
Your Marxist friends. Your Marxist friends.
Yeah. Well, socialists are Marxist light. It's like Coors Light, which tastes like Coors Light tastes like goat piss. Okay, it's basically goat piss. Yeah, and socialism is basically the goat piss of Marxism. That's my conceptual model.
I
See, I
mean,
try to make this. I try to make this approachable to the bowling alley set. People who are frequent bowling alleys, because a lot of people are listening to this podcast that are in bowling alleys. Did you know that?
well, okay. I mean, in a
Did
brief
you see
summary,
how our numbers are increasing in Great Britain, in England? Did you see that?
there you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now that we've trashed socialism, it's probably going to tank in England.
Well, the Brits. I mean, God love the Brits. I mean, we trash the Brits all
God
the time.
save the Queen. Yeah.
Yes, all the queens, by the way.
You beat me by 1 second to that joke. I kid you not,
Every
1
queen.
second.
God save every queen. Yeah. So, but you know what? They're like Venezuela, but they're smarter than Venezuela. I mean, the poor Venezuelan people, they never saw it coming. Oh, this free food. Oh, this free healthcare. Oh, wait a minute, there's no food. Oh, wait a minute, there's no healthcare.
And now we also don't have toilet paper. We didn't even ask for free toilet paper, and we don't have it now.
According to Tucker Carlson, they never needed it anyway. Yeah. You hear what's happening to Tucker? Did you see what's happening to Tucker Carlson?
He's getting slammed for saying this or that. What else is new? I mean,
No. They're on a rolling attack on Tucker. It's a well laid out attack on Tucker.
he's kind of like Ben Shapiro in the sense that early on, when in Ben Shapiro's rise, he was getting attacked all the time, protests. Now the left is kind of pretending Ben Shapiro doesn't exist. If they are able to break Tucker, then they'll go home patting themselves on the back. If they do,
They'll never break Tucker.
And if they don't break him, then they'll just ghost him, pretending he doesn't.
The tagline of his latest statement says, "I will never, ever capitulate to the mob. It's not going to happen. I will never apologize," and he shouldn't, because you know why? As Troy Warden was telling me today on camera, if he apologizes, he's a goner. He's
basically, gone. And that's true for me too. I make no apologies to the hurt feelings of my dismissal of socialism and communism. By the way, I really hope you all took it as satire. I have not been converted by the mob. Just FYI. Just saying.
You really think somebody actually believed that you were defending Marxism?
I have been pretty impressed at what people can believe when I try to introduce satire into my social feed. In any event, it's been great talking to you.
It's our #1 podcast for the week. The devil made me do it.
Well, it's pretty hard, if the devil makes you do something.
No, in 2 days, we have eclipsed all other podcasts on that one podcast. In 2 days.
Oh, we should do more like that, I guess.
People love that one.
So maybe I should defend communism, Would you like that, comrade? I defend communism now.
I remember you tried to defend transgenderism, which gave rise to the devil made me do it. So you should try to defend all liberal points of view. Why don't we do a podcast?
Why can't you defend something?
No. You're a young man. You're a younger man.
Yes, I'm young and stupid. Fine.
Yeah, no, you're younger and better than I am. You're more intelligent. You should defend open borders. Let's do a podcast where you're defending open borders.
I can't even comprehend that world. Okay, I'm gonna have to end this now before he locks me into anything else.
All right,
folks, thank you so
much.
Great
talking to you.
Please subscribe. Please follow my blog, The Vigilant Bridge Builder. You can find me just by Googling it. Facebook, Instagram. Follow me on all those places. Twitter. Yes. Twitter. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please share and subscribe. Thanks again, guys.